At this time, we'll discuss committee. Are there any questions from the committee for Joe concerning our migratory birds?
I've got a quick question, just sort of related. Several years ago, there was discussion about expanding the reelfoot zone to south along the Mississippi River because the hunters, the ducks are there also. And I didn't know whether, do you ever get any comments or questions about expanding that? I mean, it was discussed several years ago, and I didn't know whether that was still something that you ever got comments about or not.
That's the first I've heard of it. You'll recall I've been here about a year and a half now. I can certainly look into that. But in the year and a half I've been here, I've not heard people requesting that. I can check with the Region 1 folks and see where that was. Anybody from the audience, staff, have any comments? We'll look into that and get back with you.
Alan shook his head, so I'm
Okay. No.
Are there any other questions from the committee? All right, Chair Bledsoe.
Not necessarily on the committee, but this is just a point of clarification. I'm not a big duck hunter or goose hunter, but in the hunting guide, and the only reason I know this is because I was asked this question, so was Chuck. The early Canada goose season, which is for our migratory birds, the little asterisk there says Tennessee migratory bird permit is required. You still have to have a federal duck stamp to hunt those, don't you?
Right. And Chuck called me probably during your meeting or slightly after that. And I can't remember. I don't have the guide in front of me.
Well, when you flip over to page 11, right above the Tennessee migratory bird permit, it's got the federal duck stamp, and it says that federal law requires that each waterfowl hunter carry on his or her possession, in addition to a hunting license, a federal migratory bird hunting and conservation stamp. So,
I believe the table, if I'm recalling correctly, I believe the table, the asterisk in the table, or the footnote that you refer to, refers to more than one item in the table. I think that's why.
okay.
When Chuck asked me, I thought, oh, we're missing, we should have more information there. But I think, and I can chat with you after about that if you want. I don't have it in front of me.
That's good.
But you're correct, yes. Any waterfowl season, hunting season, not the conservation season, you're required to have all the federal permits, including a Tennessee migratory bird permit.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the committee? Any from the audience? All right, do I have a motion from the committee to pass Proclamation 15-20? Motion. Have a second?
Second.
All those on the committee in favor of passing Proclamation 15-20, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Well, Mr. Chairman, the Wildlife Committee and I recommend passage of Proclamation 15-20.
Thank you, Chairman McMillan. I'll take that in the form of a motion from the Wildlife Committee. And I have a second from Ms. Woodson. The whole commission, all in favor of passing Proclamation 15-20, the migratory bird hunting seasons and regulations, say aye.
Aye. Nays?
Ayes have it. Proclamation 15-20, migratory bird hunting seasons passes. Chairman McMillan.
Yes, sir. So the next proclamation you have in your packet is Proclamation 1521, which is the manner and means of hunting, taking, and trapping. And again, I want to thank the Colonel for allowing me to present this to you. The changes that we're going to recommend today, we've essentially talked about them, has to do with the light goose conservation season. And as a background, again, I want to pull up the same slide and point out to you the increase in snow geese harvest, the estimated snow goose harvest from last year to this year. So the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service estimated that in 13-14 we harvested around 500 snow geese. Last year we harvested almost 3,000. So this is a huge increase. When I'm at the flyway meeting and talking to other state biologists, I know that Louisiana has historically wintered a large number of not only snow geese but white-fronted geese, and they're seeing a decline in their overwintering population. And really what's happening is states like Tennessee and other states farther north are receiving these birds, and I guess they're short-stopping them. So we're getting more geese here. Louisiana's getting less geese, and we thought it was a good time, a good opportunity to make this recommendation for these light goose conservation permit that we're requiring. So just a reminder, light geese are snow geese, blue geese, and Ross's geese. I've got for you here the federal allowances for this conservation season. And I've highlighted the ones that we currently take or we took last year in the yellow asterisk there. So there are some additional allowances that we're going to recommend that we're able to take, which includes no daily bag limit during the conservation season, hunting until 30 minutes after sunset, which there's no migratory game birds that you can do that for except this conservation season. However, there's a requirement that hunters register for a free permit. There's a 4-question survey that we're going to provide to them after. Did they hunt? How many geese they shot, retrieved, and shot and did not retrieve. And then we are required to report to the Fish and Wildlife Service. I think it's in December of every year. So the proclamation, I've kind of done a red line here for you. This is in Section 5, the Migratory Bird Regulations of the Manner and Means Proclamation. Paragraph 5, pursuant to federal regulations, during the conservation season for blue, snow, and Ross's geese, waterfowl hunters may use unplugged shotguns and electronic calls. Hunting is allowed from 30 minutes before official sunrise. And I want to, the official sunrise, those 2 words are not in the proclamation in front of you, but I do have them in the final one. So I omitted those by mistake. So hunting is allowed from 30 minutes before official sunrise to 30 minutes after official sunset. There is no daily bag or possession limit. No federal or state waterfowl stamps are required to hunt during the conservation season. Hunters must possess a light goose conservation season permit and have a valid hunting license, but the license may be from any state. So we recommend adoption of Proclamation 1521 with the additional provisions added to the light goose conservation season as outlined in this presentation.
Thank you, Joe. Does anyone on the Wildlife Committee have questions for Joe concerning the manner and means? No questions from the committee? Any from the audience? Okay. Do I have a motion from the committee to pass Proclamation 15-21?
Motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those on the Wildlife Committee in favor of passing Proclamation 15-21, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, Mr. Chairman, Wildlife Committee and I recommend passage of Proclamation 15-21.
Thank you, Chairman McMillan. Motion's been made. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion been made and seconded on Proclamation 15-21, manner and means taking and trapping pertaining to light goose. Any discussion from the audience? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Chairman McMillan.
Thank you. Joe, I just have a suggestion this time next year when you come back with this, if you could maybe bring a chef and teach us how to cook these things, then we'll probably have more people shoot them. So, but I think most people are like I am. They only harvest what you eat, and it is a problem. It's hard to know what to do with them. I mean, obviously we don't have a wanton waste law in Tennessee. Do you know what people do with these geese when they pile them up?
I've got friends that shoot these up in Canada and here in the States as well, and they make a lot of goose jerky out of them. So I think if you add pork and spices, you can, you're getting that protein, but you're not tasting the
I've tried it, and you better eat it quick because it gets greased up after a week or so.
That's right.
I've tried everything, but yeah, maybe we need to find a good chef.
I'm sure they have them in Louisiana. So I have 2 more slides for you, and then I'll be through. I just want to remind you again, I've mentioned this, I think at a previous commission meeting. Currently, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and the flyways in states set migratory bird seasons in 2 processes. One is the early season process, which are basically all seasons that start in September, and then the late seasons, which is what we're doing now, duck and goose seasons. Starting next year, starting for the next season, which is the 16-17 season, the Fish and Wildlife Service, for administrative reasons primarily, is going to condense those 2 processes into a single process. So all migratory game birds seasons will be set in one process. So on the federal side, that relates to federal registration, federal registers being published, comment periods, and those kind of things. So the proposed hunting dates and seasons and bag limits will be developed the previous fall before the hunting season. So essentially, we're talking about a 1-year out process. So the 2016-17 season, which is a year away from now, a year and a couple months, we're actually going to be starting the process to set those regulations at the flyway level in September of this year. And so as an example, this year, we're going to reuse those breeding population numbers that I showed you, 49.5 million. Those are this year's data. We're going to use them this fall to set a season that's a year and a half away. So what that really means is that you're going to see me again in January and February is kind of what the director staff had recommended. So the 16-17 seasons will be set at the January and February Tennessee Wildlife Commission meetings for they'll be set in January and February of 16 for the 16-17 season. So this provides hunters essentially almost a year to get ready for hunting seasons, get their vacation time lined up and those kind of things. So there's little anticipated change to the seasons. At the technical committee level, we were concerned that using data that's not current year's data would lead to more conservative seasons. And we've requested the Fish and Wildlife Service do a whole bunch of different analysis. They've run some simulations, like millions of simulations. And what they've told us is that there's little expected change to the number of years we have a liberal package versus a moderate package and restrictive package, so those kind of things. So again, you'll see me again. There won't be two procs. We're going to have to merge all this into one proclamation. So the September, the dove seasons, all this, it'll be a little easier for us to set the regulations. And it will actually be a commission meeting or two ahead of the resident game species season setting process. So instead of being the late child, waterfowl will be the early child. So look for us this year in January again. So thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Joe. Thanks for a great job. Chairman Bledsoe, that concludes the Wildlife Management Committee.
Thank you, Chairman McMillan. At this time, let's take about a 15-minute break and meet back in here at 10 o'clock, or 11 o'clock, I'm sorry.